Hello and welcome to this new episode of Open Book Entrepreneur. We have Louisa here with us all the way from UK, and she's a podcast host, she's a journalist, and she's involved in a lot of different things when it comes to media, has great experience working on radio shows and stuff like that. So, Louisa, please introduce yourself to our audience.
So, hello, my name's Louisa Wizzi Magnussen. The Wizzi is from birth. I was called, my brother couldn't pronounce Louisa, so he called me Wizzi, and it stuck. And then I started my business Wizmedia in 2011. So my nickname became my brand, which was quite fun. And as you said, I'm a journalist, I'm a broadcaster, I'm a presenter, I'm an audio specialist, and I run a mental health initiative called Minds Anonymous. And that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how did you end up in this line of business in podcasting and radio shows?
Well, I studied at a university. I studied journalism between 29 and 2013. I think that was when I was at uni, a while ago now. I also did a foundation art course where I specialized in animation, stop motion animation and film production and web design. So a combination of that and then real time experience. So I started my first documentary production company when I was 16 called Burning Wick Productions. We produced a full length documentary about a festival here in Surrey in Guildford in the UK. Which went down very well. Then we started doing electronic press kits, EPKs, behind the scenes stuff for bands, festivals, things like that. So that really got me into the business of media. And then, yeah, toddled off to university, got my degree. And during that time, I volunteered for a radio station called Kane FM. They're a community-based radio station based in Guildford again, which is my hometown. And I started by co-hosting the Breakfast in Base show, which was lots of fun. I was always late. So I had to learn, don't be late if you're going on air. But I was quite young back then, I was like 18. So but that was fun. And then eventually they gave me my own show, which was the Wake Up Happy Breakfast show. And I just fell in love with radio. I fell in love with the microphone. I'm a lot more articulate when I've got a mic in front of me. When I'm in normal social situations, I can be a bit like, I don't know what to say, or I just say the wrong thing. But if you put a microphone in front of me, I feel at home.
Great stuff. Yeah, yeah. That's how you went into. That's how you started with podcasts and stuff, and then what happened since then? Obviously, I know you have a lot of experience running different podcasts and stuff and radio shows. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that sort of how that affected your career? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So after uni, after Kane FM, I went off and became an online and print journalist for a local publication while I was still doing my Kane FM radio shows. And then I'm trying to think what happened next. I've had a few corporate roles. I was a PR and marketing manager. I was a communications manager for corporates, but I've always had Wizmedia running along, potentially sometimes on the back burner and sometimes on the front burner, depending on how good the client journey is, if you see what I mean, how many clients I have at the time. Um, I lived in Denmark for 2 years between 22 and 24, and I did the Last Week in Denmark podcast there. I launched that with a guy called Narcissus, who's actually a politician, and he's a Romanian politician living in Denmark. He's quite an interesting chap. And we ran the Last Week in Denmark podcast, which was a news podcast. So that was that podcast. The business of my main flagship radio show since 2020, which I produced on Connections Radio, was a podcast for a little while, but I couldn't keep up. I got annoyed because you had to pay to have it on all the platforms. I wasn't getting many plays, to be honest. I found the show performed a lot better on radio. I was getting a couple of thousand hits a show on radio, sometimes way more, sometimes less. A big following in America as well. So I found being on a radio station was a lot more effective than being on all the podcasting platforms. I think because it's such a saturated market, everybody's got a podcast, and it doesn't matter to a lot of people how good the quality is, whether they've got the right equipment. And that is a bit of a with me because I spent a lot of money and time learning how to do this properly, and it seems difficult. It's a bit disjointed that you can be a success on the radio but not in podcasting. But then again, as we were just discussing off air, it's strategy, and I'm not very good at strategy.
Fair enough, fair enough. But I know that you're good in so many different things. So you have this fantastic experience when it comes to podcasting, when it comes to running radio shows and stuff. So you also have this great experience in journalism, yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. Like how. So what do you do usually now for your clients? How do you help them?
Well, I've literally just stopped my main show and my other little radio shows on Connections Radio because they've had to shut down because of the financial crisis that's going on in England that's hitting so many businesses. And then I also work for Novo Nordisk, the pharmaceutical company, and I do technical copywriting for them. So for them, what I get to do, it's really interesting actually. I love it. I get to interview the professors, interview the scientists, the postdocs, whoever's just come up with a fantastic new idea in stem cell research, essentially, or just published a big paper or been published in Nature or any of these huge publications. I interview them, I transcribe it, I turn it into copy that's suitable for about 8 different platforms. So it's the same story, but it's done in 8 different ways for 8 different platforms. So it's their various websites and their social media channels. And I love that work because it's so interesting. It's way above my intelligence level, this stem cell research stuff. I don't understand a lot of the terminology. It's a lot of Googling and reading scientific papers, but I do love it. And it's really fascinating to learn about cutting edge science. And it's really quite humbling to be the one that gets to communicate that to the public.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so what's your sort of like plan for your business for the next 12 months? Where would you like to go next?
Well, first of all, I'm getting back in the game. So I'm going to be doing a news podcast with a journalist who's had a very amazing career, actually. He's a print journalist and he's been trying to do a podcast, a news podcast. And him and his partner have decided it really needs a bit more flavor, a bit more radio flavor, because he's a print journalist. It's very different to being a broadcaster. So they've invited me to go on and interview him for this. And it's basically going into depth about subjects that perhaps the new usual sort of mainstream news programs do talk about, but they don't go into the back detail of what we're on about. We all know about there's something happening in Gaza. We all know, all these world problems, but a lot of channels just brush over them because they don't have time to give proper time to explaining the whole story. And that's what this podcast is going to be about. So that's exciting. I'm also going back to Kane FM, which was where I cut my radio teeth, as I said earlier. And I'm going to be supervising the build of their new studio. I'm going there today, actually, this afternoon with an old camcorder to
Mhm.
set up to start shooting the building of this studio. So I'm helping them with, what kind of glass they need for the screen between the green room and the studio. I'm helping them with cables, desks, all of that stuff, using my sort of production radio knowledge, really. Yeah, and I might be training up some of the younger presenters. I've done it before. I've done some coaching of, vocal coaching with presenters. It was quite funny, actually. A few years ago, I did one, and I was getting them all to breathe and stretch and do yoga to warm their voices up. And these sort of 16, 17-year-old kids were like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, it's divine. It's lovely. Let's do radio, because you've got to get the energy up. If you're on the mic, you need to be animated. Otherwise, it sounds a bit flat, I think.
Totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I mean, definitely interesting story and stuff. So what's the one thing that you can actually help potentially our audience with? What's your offer, for example, that you can do for them?
Writing and talking. Literally, in a nutshell, I'll say again, writing and talking, it's what I'm best at, is communication. So if you have a business where you need to I'm especially good at tech and science and translating technical concepts into stuff that the layman or the general public would understand. That is probably my top skill. I've been honing it my whole career. And I love it. So yeah, I think it's really important when you're working to be passionate about what you do. So I want more writing, particularly technical scientific writing. If anybody has a pharmaceutical business or a tech startup, scientific startup, anything like that, yeah, that's what I can help with. And if anyone needs a voice.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we were talking a little bit as well before I went on air about AI as well.
Yeah.
Because lots of people nowadays, they use AI and they actually sort of not, they don't use it only for inspiration. They just like copy paste and use these things and then use the design from AI and stuff. But it's not there yet, as we're talking about. So how
No.
is your sort of like writing different to AI?
Well, I use AI. I do use it to transcribe my interviews because it does it instantly. But then you have to go back and edit because AI misses nuance, it misses tone, it misses context. You cannot get away with copy and pasting from AI and producing it as professional work. So what you need to do is use the summary. I use Otter.ai and I use the summary, I use the notes, I use the transcription, and then I search the document for the bits I want. I copy and paste some bits, certain bits of it into a Word document. Then I re-edit it, completely rewrite it with my own style and my experience and my skills. So AI quickens things. It makes me more productive in terms of how long it takes to produce a document because it does save time. And with graphics and things, you can use AI to get ideas for graphics, but then again, bin it, do it yourself. It's better and it's more professional, I think.
Totally. Yeah, Louisa. And also, if someone wants to actually, someone watching us wants to get in touch with you, learn more about what you do and how they can do that.
Wiz-media.co.uk. It's wiz-media.co.uk is my website. And you can book a free 15-minute discovery call with me and talk to me about anything you like and ask and see if you want a Wizzy in your business, basically.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks a lot for that. And I can share the link in the description of this episode.
Thank you.
On top of that, if you guys have any questions for Louisa or me, please, drop them down in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them. Thank you all for watching and listening to this episode. Louisa, thank you so much for being a guest, for, borrowing us your amazing voice and sharing your great stories. So see you all in the next episode. All the best and bye-bye.
Thank you.